Bayonetta.
Bayonetta 3 could take a dive into who started the Umbran Witches and the Lumen Sages. Now, we do know that they did defend the eyes of the world throughout history, and there is no recollection of who the first elders were. Except for one. There could be a chance we get to explore the grand history of Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3. Okay, here are the confirmed pivotal characters of the Umbran Witches and the Lumen Sages. Are you ready? The ones shown are Bayonetta, John, Rosa, and Umbran Elder. The ones mentioned were Turandot, Matriona, Yonaldushi, Karaba, Cleopatra, Akka, Yaxi, Aizen, Ava, Mary, Akuni, and Angel Slayer. Another possible one is Alraun. Now you do have the Umbran trainee, but we are not worried about that at the moment. As for the Lumen Sages, the ones shown are bolder. The ones mentioned are Inferno Slayer and the Lumen Elder. Could have been possible that Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great were Lumen Sages in the Bayonetta universe. Maybe. Now, any more? Yes. The Umbran and Lumen Sage statue at the Crescent and Sunrise Valley. Mr. Hideki Kamiya-san has confirmed there are female members in the clan, but females do not become Lumen Sages, though this can change if Bayonetta awakens her new power. Oh my god, so I saved that screenshot on the 26th of March 2020, way before episode 1 of this series, so it took me 50 fucking episodes to get this screenshot out there. Anyway, the absence of Lumen Sages could spell that we get to play a Lumen Sage for a portion of the game in Bayonetta 3, exploring the ruins and remains of his Lumen heritage. Now, for the sake of the video, I don't want to dive into the accessories of the Umbran Witches, but I do touch on why there are witches all over the world. You'll see. What really fascinated me was this. The Crescent and Sunrise Valleys. These are the only source of the previous leaders of each clan before the Umbran and Lumen Elders. Better yet, the first leaders, and even better, whom I think pioneered and started Umbran and Lumen Sage magic. If you've seen some of my previous videos, you know that I am a complete nerd when it comes to names and etymology. So what could these two humans' names have been? Now, I did some quick digging into Norse mythology, and there are a lot of branches and factions to cover, but here are the things that I found interesting. Balder is said to be the god of light, while his twin brother Hod is said to be the god of darkness. Now, in the Bayonetta universe, we have Radahn, we have Aesir, and we have Balder, who were based on Norse mythology and appropriated into a game. I decided to name these two figures Ava and Ade respectively. It's very important that this Ava who pioneered Umbran arts is not the same Ava that created the Bracelet of Time. I speculate that the Bracelet of Time Ava was foreseen as an extraordinary witch when she was born, hence why she was named after the Ava that I am going to talk about right now. So it's a speculation within a speculation. If you've noticed, I named them Ada and Ava, which is of course derived from Adam and Eve from Christian theology, the advent of humanity. Okay, so the following readings are now speculation, which are based on theories that we've made so far. Also, the following is slightly different to previous videos since I came up with more fun ideas. Some of the characters are also based on Christian theology. This is my Garden of Eden theory. Okay, let's get into it. The first Armageddon has subsided, and the Trinity of realities are now here. Juvelius, Sheba, and Aesir are respectively reigning over their worlds after being unknowingly chosen by Lilith. Both Jubelius and Sheba do not know of Lilith. Lilith roamed the earth for millennia, coursing through the eras of humanity. She sought to bestow her power to someone worthy, since her power was slowly subsiding. Her eyes of the world were in the custody of Aesir. She stumbles upon a small tribe led by a man named Ade and a woman named Ava, who believed in a celestial domain they called the Divine Will. Ava firmly places her palm on Lilith's forehead.
Are you sick, little one?
Ade was raised as a blacksmith that was in love with the weapons he created. His tanned body showcased his constant presence in front of a fire. Ava enjoyed alchemy and envisioned a time where telekinetic powers would be a reality. Her long, beautiful white hair, white as snow, flowed elegantly wherever the wind sang. The men and women in the group wore peasants' clothing. Like a tribe, roles for hunting, cooking, teaching were shared between the people. However, women were more servants than companions. The two had already amassed a small following of believers of the divine will, known as the Restorationists, based on the real-world belief that Christianity should be restored along the lines of what is known about the apostolic early church. The year is 500, around 1,000 years prior to the witch hunts and 1,500 years prior to the events of our Bayonetta. Not knowing their god was right in front of them, Lilith played along as one of their new followers. Ada and Ava both led the Restorationists with secret doctrines believing in one god, even though they didn't realize the first Armageddon even occurred. One night, Lilith enslaved Ada's mind while he was sleeping, and during the first nightmare, Ada wakes up the next morning, breathing heavily. He dreamt about the first Armageddon and had the epiphany of the Trinity of realities. Visiting the domain of Paradiso in his dream, he sees a heavenly world as far as the eye can see. A few months pass, with Ada secretly indoctrinating his men of such a world. Ava, on the other hand, grows suspicion towards the men of Ada. Ada quickly storms into Ava's room, not knowing she was getting dressed though. Blushing, he proceeds to get a hammer thrown at his face, met with a scream that wakes the community up.
Ava, I have to tell you something.
After some bandages, Ada explains to Ava that he claims to have seen the world of the divine will, a beautiful, heavenly place that calms one's skin, fountains that flowed with the most distilled of waters. Ava, confused, as she saw the complete opposite, a barren wasteland of red lava and brimstone. Ada stood up in frustration, unable to channel his irritation properly, only to have his right eye glow in a blue aura.
How long have you known?
Ava, looking down in submission with her eyes closed, sitting down on her knees like she's not trying to make a mess of the floor.
You dare defy the divine will?
Ada proceeds to slap Ava, only to be avoided with Ava's instinct. Ava stands and stares into Ada's menacing eyes, as her left eye glows in a bright red.
The women here will not be servants to you anymore.
You are denying a lifetime of paradise. What about all the things we worked for?
Ava stands her ground and unleashes a red burst of energy from her palms, decimating the shack that surrounded them. A gargantuan crater is formed as the shack disintegrates, only leaving the frame.
You devil!
Ada quickly picks up his clay mold from the debris and breaks the clay casing to reveal a golden blade. He coughs up blood from the immense power. A boy, hiding cautiously behind a small building, eavesdrops on the two. Ada quickly detects his energy and proceeds to hold his hand out to him.
Rodan, boy, run!
Ava swiftly takes out the crossbow prototype she had been working on and aims it at the boy. An engraving of William is carved into the side. The long sword makes it in time to knock the crossbow out of aim.
Ava!
With all his strength, Ada pins Ava's neck, pushing her away from the town as far as possible. They land on a rocky hill overlooking the horizon. The sight is beautiful. Both breathe heavily as they menacingly stare into each other's eyes.
If only I could slow down time. To kill you slowly. No such paradise should be in human hands.
And a land of fire and brimstone is any better?
Ava readies both her hidden crossbows attached to her feet as she swiftly balances on her right hand, aiming her feet at Ada. Ada stands his ground, gritting his teeth, protecting his body with his sword. The arrow grazes his sword and just barely scratches his tricep.
All that for a drop of blood. Snake venom?
Ada's heart quickly pounds intensely for a second as he coughs up blood as his vision starts to blur. Ava's beautiful white hair forms into a strong armor. A shiny silver spear-like arrow, harder than that of titanium, protrudes from the palm of her hand and raised like a javelin. While Ada presumes to stab his longsword into the ground, he cracks his knuckles into a fist as it glows a bright yellow. Ade utters in his mind,
May you be the one to inherit this script to create and destroy Rodan
made my kin strive for a peaceful life. Where did these powers come from?
The blue sky quickly turns into a dark, distilled black and white at the same time. A perfect solar eclipse forms above the hill as the clock strikes noon. Both chant out simultaneously with all their heart. Ava, with her left eye burning in a passionate crimson red, strives forward with her titanium javelin in her hand. Ade's fist, paired with a blue oceanic hue in his eye, strives forward, aiming for Ava's throat. For a split second before they connect, Lilith appears between the two. Ade strikes Lilith's throat, while Ava impales her mortal chest. Lilith shivers in pain, finally knowing what humans have endured for generations.
Little one.
She slowly falls as Ade catches her.
I just wanted to show how beautiful the divine will is.
What are you talking about?
I've been waiting for you too. For a very, very long time.
We can help you. Don't talk, little one!
Lilith places her palms on each of their foreheads as the solar eclipse dissipates.
If ever a child were to be born from my two kin.
Little one, what is your name?
The sun shines onto the right of the mountain, as the moon to the left. They both see her soul leave her body, dissipating into angelic rips of paper. Ade carries Lilith's body and honorably buries her in a hill not too far from the mountain they fought. A tombstone forms above her grave as Ade frustratingly cries.
What was your name?
He inscribes, "Friend, here is what I am reminded of. Love said the first is springtime, but the second resembles me so much. Her name is..." Ava has escaped a few miles away from Ade's men, plans to travel the world to free enslaved women of every culture, of every land, only to return to Europe as a fulfilled warrior. She stands her ground, looks upon her followers of the moon as to Ade with his followers of the sun. Simultaneously, they preach with passion.
From the lightness, we draw our strength!
The first Umbran Witches and the first Lumen Sages. May your paths only cross to save humanity. Now, if you realize that gravestone that Ade wrote on is the same gravestone that you see at the prologue scene of Bayonetta 1. Therefore, the core players in Bayonetta 3 were there from the very start. I find that pretty cool. Now, the gravestone I put into the story is a complete stretch, but what I like to do is I find little bits of Easter eggs that I find throughout the game that have not been explained yet and make a whole story around them because I find that a little bit more interesting. Therefore, turning them into potential story arcs for future games. Anyways, in Bayonetta 3, I theorized that Lilith's awakening and possession of little Cereza's body would spell the revival of the first Umbran Witch and the first Lumen Sage. Potentially, also humanity's strongest human before Bayonetta, Eggman the Destroyer. Eggman doesn't have to be the purple figure. He could be, but he doesn't have to be. It could be someone completely different and Eggman could be reintroduced in Bayonetta 3 purple figure or not. But maybe it's someone more fitting of a blood moon. A huge shout out and a big thank you to Nessa and Zac Elliot for being in this collaboration. Please go ahead and click their socials below, subscribe and follow all their accounts. I'm Rockin', and the final part of episode 50 is coming. Happy theorizing.